Welcome back to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. The archives and load up some other talks that I've got of these Bob Earll cassettes. I've had them sitting on a hard drive for some time now. I've decided to share them with you all. Let me know what you think. Some people loved Bob. Some people hated Bob. Bob was Bob, but he talked all over the world. I mean, he's from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area, and did other things. I think he was a writer. Just click down below, like or subscribe, or both, like and subscribe. Just click down below, like and subscribe on my channel. It helps me out. Just a little click for you, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm bringing you some Bob Earll. And have a good day if you want to.
Bobby E.
Well, I am Bob Earll, and I am a drug addict and an alcoholic. God, that's one of the nicest introductions I've had in a long time. Usually the people that introduce me feel they're going to be held responsible for my talk, and they get really nervous, you know. Jamaica, your talk was beautiful. You know, the most of us here should have been in Alateens. Either A, it wasn't around, or B, we drank our way through it. But we just... we should have been there. It's nice to hear people talk about feelings. This candle here is, this talk isn't starting where I'd want it to start. I want you to know that I'd hoped to go light, you know, but I always hope to do that and never do. I don't know why I don't learn a lesson one of these days. The candle is the symbol of the spirit. And I think the most important thing about that statement is to understand that the candle is the symbol of the Spirit, that the Spirit is ours, that the Spirit is yours, that the Spirit is inside of you. And when they said that about the candle, there's nothing like starting on a light note, I couldn't help but think of an experience I had about a couple of years ago. I'll start the story back. In 1981, there was a young girl from Ohio, actually. Some of you may know her, may not know her. She's not on the program. Beautiful girl, athletic girl. She was down in Houston running and training in a park to get ready for the Honolulu Marathon in Honolulu. Serious runner, had hoped to do good. Bright girl, physically attractive girl, physically athletic girl, and doing her training in the humidity to get ready for the humidity of Hawaii. And one day as she was on her training run through the park, she was shot by a sniper. No reason, just not her particularly. He just was in the park with a gun and picked out a couple of people to shoot. She was one of them. The bullet severed her spine, paralyzed her. Now, I didn't know her then. I was not to meet her until 1983, 2 years later, when I was over in Honolulu to run the Honolulu Marathon. And she was there. And she was entered in the wheelchair marathon. And she won it for women. And I get emotional about that because I believe that every one of us who sits in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting sober has the same identical spirit, that drive to live that she had. I mean, that's somebody who didn't lay down and give it up because of one moment of bad luck or one moment of fate. She kept going. You know, I feel that we're that way. I feel we have that spirit. I feel that we didn't have that spirit, we wouldn't still be here. But I get going because I think that we do as much to kill that spirit in AA as we do to raise it up. Okay? This is why I'm loved all over the country. You open a lines like that and you close about 100 minds. Well, I can only talk based on my experience, which is 23 years of recovery in this program. And boy, to the young people, man, I'm glad that you guys are here because we need you because you're going to change it, and it needs to be changed. And see, Alcoholics Anonymous, and boy, this is not the talk I had intended to give. I'm sure Lois would like to get under the table about that. Alcoholics Anonymous was founded by seekers. Alcoholics Anonymous was founded by men who were not afraid to reach out, to try the new, and to move on down the road. Man, Bill never stopped looking. Bill never stopped seeking. I don't care if he was off into acid trying to find a way, in LSD to find recovery for the alcoholic, or if he was so goddamn far gone on niacin that they almost threw him out of AA, And they should have thrown out the people who wanted to remove Bill, because here's a guy who's looking for the answers, and he never stopped looking. I mean, Christ, they used to have seances at Dr. Bob's house, right? This is our founders, guys, sitting around, looking for a little help from the spirits, right? There are meetings that wouldn't allow them in today. Groups that the old boys couldn't qualify for, I've got to tell you, there is... How am I going to get into this one? Well... I want you, before I go any further, I never think to say this, and I'm in a really good place tonight, and I feel very soft and very emotional. I think it's this conference. There's a lot of really good energy in this conference, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. And I don't say these things because I dislike AA or because I dislike the people in AA or because I dislike anything. I get so energetic and so angry and so upset and so adamant because I love AA so much and because I love you people so much and because I've gone through so much pain in 23 years of sobriety trying to find the path, as you will, that all I'm trying to do now is throw out a little information so maybe you can shortcut a few years off what you're trying to do. And I see it work. I see people do it. I have friends who have got 2 or 3 years who are doing all the same things in their life today that I'm doing. And we can sit down and talk as if we've been doing it together for 23 years, So it's not, there is no hard, fast rules around here. You don't have to wait. I mean, the standard line for the new guy says, God, as long as I'm giving up drugs, and alcohol, I might as well give up cigarettes. Says, oh, no, don't, Why not? A little nicotine withdrawal is lightweight shit if you're into kicking a heroin habit. It's... Guy isn't even going to know it's gone, man. Oh, yeah, I quit smoking. God, I don't remember when. It was... somebody said something, And that's a good time, see, because the first 1, 2, 3 years, you're a little bit pliable. But by the time you hit year 3, if you're like I was, you've already formulated an AA personality. And you don't take you to the meeting, whoever you are, because you have no idea who the hell you are, right? But you take this personality that you created to the meeting. Now, if you're sober, the personality's not bad, don't get me wrong. Obviously, you're emulating the right people because you're not drinking and using, okay? But you might as well also take a wind-up doll and send it to the meeting, all right? And it's like, I have no, nothing to say about treatment one way or the other, good, bad, whatever. It's the care units lately have got on television the greatest ad I have ever seen. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's the one with the elephant in it, okay? For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a very simple commercial. It has a typical family with a couple of kids, a wife, a husband. Alcoholism exists in the house, and alcoholism is represented by an honest-to-God, massive, real-life elephant, right? But everyone pretends the elephant is not there, okay? I mean, one of the kids is sitting at the dining room table doing his homework, and the elephant walks through the dining room, right? And the kid just keeps doing his homework like the elephant isn't there. Same thing with mom. Mom's in the kitchen. Where most moms go when the drinking starts, man, is put on the apron and head for the kitchen. And the elephant walks through the kitchen and she's in the sink like there is no elephant, right? And I know in me at about 2-3 years, right in there, probably earlier, but I can only really connect it now, in that 2-3 year period, one of the things that started to happen to me is the feelings that I had been stuffing with the chemicals all my life started to come back. But my mind did not receive these feelings with open arms. See? My mind says, you're 2.5 years off alcohol and you realize now you're losing your goddamn mind, right? You are now sicker and crazier than you've ever been at any time of your life. Your chances of recovery are dwindling day by day. But in the interim, while the mind is saying that, there's this elephant walking around your house saying, I am feelings, I am social conscience, I am information about things you should pay attention to, like prayer, meditation, health, exercise, etc. But the AA personality you created has said, oh, well, if I get into that, I'm going to change. And if I change, I'm not going to have any friends. And if you wonder why it always scares you so bad when you reach the awareness, it's because it's true. Yeah, you will change. B, you won't have any friends. Okay? Your friends will change as you change. You know, it's the one thing we should be in Alcoholics Anonymous, in my opinion, is supportive of the other person and their efforts to do better, whatever their efforts may be. But it seems, my experience has been, we have a little trouble in that area. It seems that you can almost get more support for failure in AA than you can success. Okay? You take a guy at your little local group who comes every week, you know, nobody really has many feelings about him one way or the other. Don't like him, don't hate him. He's never said enough to create enough controversy that there's any real energy about him, right? But on a specific night at a discussion meeting, he's bouncing around in his chair. He can't stand it, waiting for his turn. And his turn finally comes and he leaps up and says to his group, which he's been in for 5 years, right? Man, let me tell you what happened today. I signed a contract for $250,000 with this brand new company. They gave me a $50,000 signing bonus, and I'll be goddamn, they gave me a Rolls Royce to drive. I want to see how many people take him to coffee after the meeting. That don't want something from him. Okay? But conversely, you let the poor guy come back to the meeting in another 6-8 months, you know, down the line, 10 months down the line, and he's sad and he's dejected and he's hanging his head, and it comes his turn and he says, it's not been a good day, you know, the company folded and geez, I don't know what the hell to do, you know, I lost it all. I mean, there is no more money and nothing, you know. You'll be surrounded after the meeting, you know. Did you lose it all? Everything, even the car? Well, now, we wouldn't be applying and laughing if we didn't realize that's the truth. That's the reality. But wow, how come? God, we're not bad people. We're really not bad people. We're good people, beautiful people. Why the hell would we do that? It's simple. If you don't have any self-esteem, and the guy goes out and gets his $250,000 contract and his $50,000 signing bonus and his Rolls Royce, you think he got yours. That's all. He got mine. So I got to wait for him to lose his so I can get, you know, so there's a chance for me to get mine. Because as long as he's got it, I'm thinking, I don't understand that he can have his and I can have mine. I don't understand that the best thing I can do is help him enjoy his. The kindest thing I can do for me is make him feel important and make him feel blessed and make him go on and go for more. Go for more. So the golden opportunities is, for me, it's an incredible theme for an AA conference. Because in my mind, thanks to my mind, I missed golden opportunity number one, which is an interesting situation. Because I'm taken out of a doorway. I weigh 135 pounds. I've been living outdoors for a long time. I weigh 185 now, so I weighed 50 pounds less than I weigh now. I look like a skeleton. They take me into my first AA meeting. I've got only the clothes I've had on for, months. They sit me down in a chair, and this is a golden opportunity. I'm being sat down in my first AA meeting. You know what my mind says? My mind looks around the room at all the people and says, we have sunk to the bottom this time, man. This is the end of the road. Golden opportunity number one missed. Missed because of my mind. I don't put a lot of effort into the end of the road. In my mind, it just convinced me that Alcoholics Anonymous was a holding pattern. This is where you come between drinking and dying to hang out. That's what I was convinced of. My mind didn't say to me when I sat down in my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, "Oh, man, are we lucky to be here. Is this an opportunity? We can just have it all from this point on. It's all ours. How blessed we are to have this opportunity." No, didn't say that. And as I plugged along, I didn't get much support for that either. I got a lot of hard-handed, heavy-handed sponsorship, which in essence is, if you don't drink and use today, you don't die, you're lucky. You've had a good day. Yeah, that's okay. They didn't know any better. It's what was done to them, No. Well. I had a friend of mine call me a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, not on AA. He said to me, "I have 4 guests in my home. I'd like you to meet them, and they'd like very much to meet you. I've told them a little bit about you." So I said, "All right, well, great." Went over to this guy's house, and he introduced me to 2 psychiatrists from New York State. Young guys, very bright guys, very, very bright guys, both degreed and credentialed in more than one branch of psychiatry. I mean, I'm talking, you could hear the minds working as you walked in the door, if you've been around that kind of mind, it's just there, clicking, The other 2 guys, if you want to talk about opposite ends of the spectrum, were travelers. Now, the travelers were, the travelers were probably 2 of the most beautiful spiritual people I have ever met in my entire life. They were raised, they had never tasted alcohol or a drug or a cigarette of any kind in their lives. They had never eaten sugar or meat or processed foods or anything. They never drank a Diet Cola. They did not know what a cup of coffee tasted like. They had no conception of these things. They had been raised in this way of life since they were children, and they were now in their 40s. And they'd been traveling since they were 15, 16 years old. They took it to heart when somebody said to them, "God put it all here for you to enjoy," and they said, "Terrific," and left. They found there was always places for them to give, and there was always people to give them what they needed. They never went without. They never looked like they were worried about going without. It didn't matter. They only wore their robes, and they carried a small sleeping roll, and that's it. They traveled. While I was being introduced to them, as none of them knew anything about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But they were curious about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous for good reasons. One, because it sounds like there must be a spirit there somewhere to the travelers. And the psychs, of course, realized that most of their patients were going to be, from our family, so they might as well find out what they're getting ready to deal with here. I took them to 3 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings: speaker meeting, discussion meeting, participation meeting. And afterwards, I sat down with them all and I asked them what they thought. I wanted to hear what they thought of Alcoholics Anonymous. Total outsiders. The shrinks, in essence, to sum their attitude up quickly, was it was a great self-help program. Well designed, that the order of the 12 steps was perfect for, winding your head out of your rear end. The Sikhs, they had a little different attitude. They weren't Sikhs. They're not part of the Sikhs. They're of the travelers. They first of all knew that we were sober by grace. They did not doubt that for a minute. And what they said to me was said with as much peace and as much calm and as much love as I've ever heard anybody express anything about AA, including the guy who's just so grateful to be alive. Because you got to understand, if a human being is that clean, they feel everything where they go. They know what's going on and they know where they are, okay? They looked at me and they said, you know, these people are inflicted with a terminal illness. They are inflicted with a disease that will take their life. I think the latest statistic I've heard in California is 2 out of every 37 will make it. The disease will kill the other 35, okay? So they say, you know, these people are inflicted with a terminal illness. They have come here to this fellowship where by grace, it is removed and they are allowed to live sober. And they said, there's a tragedy here. And the tragedy is that instead of reaching out for life in its fullest, in all that it has to offer, they sit in those rooms and they continue to kill themselves. They smoke cigarettes by the carton, they drink coffee by the barrel, they eat sugar by the pound, no one gets enough sleep, everyone runs on a high level of anxiety, and nobody breathes. One of them caught hell for breathing. It was a deep breather. He caught hell for breathing in a meeting. Guy actually said, hey, man, you know, knock it off. Only in AA can you catch hell for breathing, you know. My immediate response was my neck got big, my face got red, and I got mad. This is my family. And yet, just as quickly, I knew in my heart they were right. Their appraisal was absolutely correct. And they meant it with all the kindness. And I know their appraisal is correct because of my own experience for 23 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. Let's see what we got going here. The first few years up to year 5 were like the first few years for an awful lot of people. I didn't like AA. I didn't like the people in AA. I was not particularly glad to be here. I had nowhere else to go. And I didn't want any more of what had been happening to me. I had strong sponsorship. They kept me busy. When I got my first car, they immediately gave me people to take to meetings. They gave me all the guys who had been coming to AA for 14 years and had never drawn a sober breath. They tell you, perhaps you can help them, right? Which is their way of giving them to you. You get the 3 o'clock calls. I have a guy for you to go pick up. I always wondered if he called you, why am I going to go get him, you know? I could figure that out until I got sober a few years. I did the same thing, you know. And a year you get in institutional work. You know, they stuck me in a bunch of institutions, and I carried a lot of panels and drove a lot of miles and wrote a lot of inventories and went to a lot of meetings, and I knew I was losing my mind. Because these feelings, and I didn't even know what they were. I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I just knew that I get uncomfortable a lot. And the minute you're uncomfortable, somebody's always on your ass about, what step are you working? I mean, poor guy might be a diabetic and not even know it. You know, what step are you working? Might be ask the person why they think they're uncomfortable. Gee, why do you think you're uncomfortable? Oh, God, I don't know why I'm uncomfortable. I'm just uncomfortable. Oh, well, it's okay to be uncomfortable. I didn't know it was okay to be uncomfortable. I thought if I was uncomfortable, I was a bad AA. Good AAs smile. A lot. Hi, how are you? How's everything? Hey, good, huh? Can't complain. Because if I started to, I'd fall out of the floor and cry. And God forbid we should show any feelings, you know? That would be absolutely criminal here. So I rolled into year 5 in Alcoholics Anonymous, ready to die. I'd probably driven 40,000 AA miles a year. I carried panels in 5 institutions. I spoke everywhere I went. I sponsored about 55 guys. I was in there, man, you know. Activity. Action and activity are 2 different words. Don't ever confuse them. Not that you would, of course. So 5 years sober, 2 months away from my 5th birthday, I'm sitting in a little single apartment on my bed in Sherman Oaks or North Hollywood or somewhere in the valley in California, in the worst depression I'd been in since I'd been sober, and I wanted to die. I was in the kind of depression where the thought of suicide would have been a step up in the depression. I was so down at the bottom, I just wanted to sit there in that little apartment on that bed, and I wanted to die. That's all. In that tortured place, I screamed at the top of my lungs at God, because I'd had a lot of trouble looking for God. The first 2 years I couldn't pray because my mind had me convinced that that would be one of the biggest mistakes I could ever make, that God was waiting with a list and we weren't even. And until he and I were even, I better not try striking up a conversation. And the single most stupid thing I would be able to do would be stand out in the open anywhere and say, you know, I want what I have coming. I had no conception that it could be good. You know, I knew what it would be. Right into the ground. So I screamed at my ceiling that if there was no God, I was going to have to die. I was going to have to die. I finally overpowered the mind and let go. I let it go. I went to work the next day, placed a brand new Allen head wrench into a brand new Allen head bolt, machined for each other, not supposed to slip. It slipped. I went backwards against one of the furnaces, crushed 2 vertebrae in my back, and was taken to the emergency hospital. In the emergency hospital, I'm laying in the cubicle, and my mind is saying to me, huh? See? Told you. You surrendered last night, today you broke your back. And out of complete desperation, another voice inside of me from down inside here somewhere that I had never heard before said to my mind, why don't you shut up? So I decided that I would no longer try and interpret what was going on in my life. My mind loves to interpret. Ah, this is good, that's bad. This isn't bad yet, but it will be tomorrow. I read an article in the newspaper one time. Some guy was reviewing some book by some psychiatrist who said that the armchair is the neurotic spaceship. You just kind of sit down, think, and leave the planet, you know. So anyhow, I just went about doing everything that was put in front of me to do. I filed for disability insurance, vocational rehabilitation, and I showed up every month at Voc Rehab. Had a terrible time at vocational rehabilitation because if you're a scattered personality and you take aptitude tests, you don't do well because you come out different people different times on the aptitude test. I wasn't trying to play any games with them. I was being honest. Every time I went in and took the goddamn test, I answered the questions how I felt that day. Okay? I just came out different things on different days. Got a lot of trouble placing me. Anyway, finally I made a decision reading TV Guide based on some reaction in my gut that I would try and be a writer. One door after the other open. You know, there's a couple of very simple ways. Everybody says, yeah, how do you tell God's will? There's 2 really easy ways to tell it. One way would be to adopt the philosophy towards your own personal life, which is very simply go through the open doors. The other one is get up in the morning, just get out of the house, start moving, and when you hit a wall, turn left. But I've discovered that I and a lot of my friends have a lot of trouble with that philosophy. We hit the wall, and we just kind of stand there. Well, God, this isn't what I had in mind. It's not bad. There's not a lot of distraction, but it's still not what I had in mind. So we don't do that. We get back 150 yards and take a run at this wall. Go through it, wind up on the other side, sitting in the middle of a garbage dump, saying, now, this isn't what I had in mind, you know. Oh, if you're really on a bad thing, maybe it is what you had in mind, and it'll entertain you for 24 hours. Turning left, I find, requires that you must be spontaneous. That's all. The ability to be spontaneous. The ability to be spontaneous requires letting go of a couple of things. One, the need for control. You can't have to know what's around the corner before you go. And be spontaneous. And one of my biggest problems in life, one of my number one problems is I have great, staggering difficulty doing things I haven't experienced before. Very limiting. Narrows your life a lot, man. I always had great excuses. Guys would come up to me in AA who are more adventurous say, wow, we found this new place we're going to go to where they're going to teach you how to ski with a parachute and meditate at the same time. And inside of me, this little kid that lives inside of me would be dying to go. He'd say, yeah, wow, let's do it, man, it'll be great. You know, but no, you know, I'd say, oh, God, I'd love to, but I've got a couple of new guys who are going to meet me at the house. I've got to help them with their program. Why can't I just say I'm afraid? I don't want to go anywhere new where I don't know what's going on because I might look foolish, and if I look foolish, I'll have to die. Yeah? It's sad that that's part of the burden, but we'll get to where we get that one in a minute. My opinion of where we get that one in a minute. So anyhow, I make this decision to become a writer, and God is beautiful. God lives up to his word. He's a wonderful power, this God. He don't put no conditions on nothing. He says, hey, turn your will and your life over to me, and it's yours. It's all yours. Prosperity, happiness, success, health, beauty, love, joy, peace. It's all yours. Abundance. It's yours. So I turned my will and my life over to care of him in a complete, total surrender. I went down this path towards being a writer. Doors opened for me that I didn't expect to open. I became a writer. Went on down the highway of life writing. Made a lot of money. A lot of money. Did a lot of very good work. Got a lot of respect from people in the industry. Let's come forward 12 years from that depression, that 5 years. Now I'm 17 years sober. Now the surroundings have changed. It's not a small apartment in the valley anymore. It's a penthouse at the beach. Okay? Expensive cars in the garage, working at a studio under a contract where they're paying me astronomical sums of money. I still wanted to die. Nothing had changed. And I had no money from all the money I left because I'd spent it all. It's like I had this thing in me that insisted that I could not walk out of the end of a contract at the year at a studio and have a nickel left. And if I couldn't spend it alone, I picked women who could spend. Did good, too. Really good. But then again, too, you know, it's like if a woman isn't getting her emotional needs satisfied, and one of the things you're trying to do to satisfy her emotional needs is give her a credit card, she'll kill you with it. She'll sail that American Express card through Saks Fifth Avenue like it's a Frisbee, you know. Well, at this 17-year point, wanting to die one more time, as a friend of mine suggested to me that perhaps I would like to seek some outside help. Perhaps I should look into therapy. Great idea. I didn't have any trouble with that. I'd always been extremely open-minded to where therapy was concerned. If you were one of the people that I sponsored and you came to me and went into therapy, I fired you as a baby. My attitude was, if I and the big book weren't enough for you, screw you, go somewhere else. Interesting, not a entirely unprevalent attitude. Anyway, I decided I would go, because I was going to die if I didn't go. So I went, and I met a lady. And she said to me, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I said, well, When I was 15 years of age, they threw me out of Manual Arts High School in Los Angeles. I discovered the wonderful world of narcotics and alcohol. I spent the next 11 years drinking alcohol, using drugs, smuggling narcotics into this country from other countries. And 17 years ago, I rounded up in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been clean and sober ever since. She said, no. I said, tell me a little bit about yourself, starting with your childhood. You weren't born at 15. I said, geez, I don't remember anything. She got that wonderful look, that they get when they know there's a potential paper that will bring them some recognition in your case. So this lady and I sat down to go about finding out why I couldn't remember 15 years of my life, why I was a total blank. And one of the things that frustrated me was by the time I was 17 years sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I had written 32 inventories. I had read these 32 inventories with probably 11 different people. Every one of my inventories started at 15 years of age. Nobody ever said to me, what happened to you before you were 15 years of age? Everybody just nodded and accepted it, and we went right on down the road. I realize now, in retrospect, the only reason that none of these men that I chose to read these inventories to said anything to me is none of them could remember back past 15 either. And all people everywhere, not just us, we accept based on what we understand. We accept based on our experience. So, I never had any trouble. Guys read their inventory to me. If they couldn't remember their childhood, I didn't think anything of it. Didn't have any importance here. I'm sober today. What's important is what step am I working today? Screw all that childhood nonsense. So this lady and I began to dig. And we went back, and in essence what we discovered is stuff that's so common it's almost not worth taking the time for, except it can kill you in your sobriety. Raised like most of us, in an alcoholic home. One alcoholic parent, one non-alcoholic parent. Alcoholic father, non-alcoholic mother. Grew up totally not in touch with my feelings because I learned that one of the things that happens to you when you grow up in this environment is the very first thing is you're not allowed to express any extreme feelings, either extreme sadness or extreme happiness. It's not permitted. And there's very good reason for that. And I'll bet 80% of the guys in the room can identify with this one. You're 3 years old, man, you're breezing down the sidewalk on your tricycle, you try and do a little Brody, and you take a header onto the pavement and you tear up your knee, right? Now you go bopping into the house, right? This is a crisis here, man. It's the first blood you've seen coming from your body. And you go bopping into the house and you got tears streaming down your face and it's, Daddy, oh God, my knee hurts and I can't say. Hey, stop your crying. Oh, I can't, my knee's killing me and really hurts really bad. Stop your crying, I'll give you something to cry for. But I can't. Well, I hadn't given birth to an idiot, you know what I mean? A friend of mine in Texas says I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night, and so I now understand tears are not a good thing around the old homestead. Tears can get you killed, so we will now eliminate tears as a means of expressing anything, okay? Next thing I learned is you can't have a giggling fit. See? Because if you cannot, there's no such thing as laughing for no reason when you have an alcoholic in the house because alcoholics are paranoid. And they know who you're laughing at. So one more time. Right? All this in essence does is takes away from you all your self-esteem and any inclination towards feelings you may ever have. And you begin to stuff these feelings. I remember I had a young man come to me a couple of years ago to discuss, somebody thought he should come discuss a problem he was having in his adolescence with me. And this was a right-on kid. He was not screwed up on drugs or alcohol or anything. He was just into that phase, man, where it gets tough, And he says to me, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him, I said, they sent you to the wrong guy, I chose alcohol and narcotics over adolescence. I don't know what the hell to tell you. I've had to experience my adolescence in sobriety in AA, which has been really uncomfortable, Particularly when I'm out running down the highway and I fall in love with a 17-year-old, Oh, God, I tell you, well, anyway, onward. I'll come back to that, guys. I won't leave you hanging on that one, I promise. Well, you know the adolescent. We all have one. He's the guy when you're driving down the street that almost gives you whiplash, you know. He can't stand it. He'll fall in love with a calf. You know, that's all he needs is a portion of a leg. You know, he doesn't need the whole girl. Oh, God, there she goes. I can tell. You know, it's her. She'll make everything okay, you know. I don't remember running around a high school track where I used to do a lot of my running at Beverly Hills High School. Some mornings I could see them as young ladies about to blossom into young womanhood and beautiful children, and on other mornings they'd be prospective dates, right? And on those mornings I used to beat myself to death. I wanted to die. My head would say to me, oh, okay, you sick son of a bitch. You're just another one of these old guys out here with a little thing for young girls. Who are you going to take this one to in AA? Going to drive down Laguna and tell Charlie? Huh? I should have. He was driving his Continental down the street like this. You know, I don't like that. But I didn't understand that was in me because I didn't have that information yet. So anyhow, now you grow up, you got no feelings. Well, what happens to you? Well, if you're like I am, first thing, it puts a lot of serious pressure on you in social situations. You walk into a strange room filled with strange people and you've never been in that situation before. If you're like I am, what you got to do is go find a corner or get back against the wall somewhere. And you stand there and you watch these new people. Watch how they stand, how they talk, how they shake hands. Hey, how are you? How they laugh. Hey, you know. And once you feel like you've got down how they do it, you then venture out into the room and introduce yourself. Hi, hey, Bob, you know. The tragedy with that is that whoever you really are, you just left back on the wall. Because whoever you are in your own mind isn't good enough to take out into the room and say hello to the people. Okay? That's what it really boils down to. Tough way to live. Causes some people to drink. We wouldn't understand that, of course. We just began mystically for no reason at all. I discovered that I didn't know how to have a relationship. That relationships were absolute terror for me. I used to beat myself up unmercifully. I used to sit at home, man. 17 years sober, I'd sit at home, I'd watch the Osmond Family Christmas Show. This is after 5 sober marriages, right? Kept going through the open doors. And I'd watch this Osmond Family Christmas Show with the grandparents and the parents and the kids and the kids and the grandkids and the children and the singing and the carols and the tree and the presents and all the love and all the familyness and all the togetherness, and I would cry my eyes out. Because my mind would say, you poor, sick son of a bitch, you'll never have that. Because you don't know how to make it work. You're a failure. And I was. But I never understood why I was a failure. You know, I mean, it's not bad to have a little information, guys. It won't kill you. It can be a tremendous asset. You know? I have more closed minds here than I do in a goddamn think tank at Remington Rand, for Christ's sakes, with the computer guys. You know? If you came up to me today and said, hey, we got 2 people that you can spend tomorrow with, Bob. We got this guy over here who's going to go down to Malibu this morning, and he's going to spend at 4 a.m., he's going to join a trampoline meditation class on the beach. And we got Bill over here. Now, Bill, he's been 35 years sober, and he's never left the Alano Club, right, since day one. Bill can quote the book from cover to cover, right? I want to go to the beach with this guy. I got my own book. You know, I want to see what the hell he's going to find out at 4 o'clock in the morning on a trampoline talking to God. I mean, I don't know. You know. Tells us in the big book, going to find out about spiritual things. You might want to do some reading. Listen to suggestions from those that are knowledgeable in that area. Right? Walk into a meeting with The Art of Meditation by Joel Goldsmith, and somebody will probably burn it. Not true. Well, I don't know. Oh, God. Geez, I wish I could just give a simple talk and tell my story and go home. That's true. That's true. That's true. Thank you for that. You know, every now and then, man, I heard an Al-Anon speaker in Canada about a year ago. I had a great line. She said that her sponsor told her responsibility was to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. I'm here to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. Because if you feel like you're nuts and you got no place else to go and you want to know why you're dying, you're sober and you're doing the best job you can in the program, maybe I can shed a little light on that. I just figured the reason I didn't know how to have a relationship is the only yardstick I had for a relationship was guess who? The original dynamic duo, mom and dad, you know. They had a great relationship. He drank and she hid in the kitchen. That was it, you know, for 17 years, or 15 years. And they had one argument, and it ended in divorce. Which you say, so what? I'll tell you so what. It makes a very interesting mind plant. For the rest of my life, I could go, you know, you have the initial encounter when you meet a woman and it's all that good energy and everything's going great, and then 3 or 4 weeks down the line, she wouldn't like my shirt. Well, that's it. I know because I saw it happen when I was a little guy that if you disagree, you're gone. You know, it's over. There's no more, nothing to do. It is over. Now, I could never express that because you got to have self-esteem to tell somebody how you feel. So I would now have to drive you out. I had one or two, silence is my trick. Silence is what my father used. Silence is what I use. I would either zone out on television or just not speak to you for so long that you would get so insane you'd have to either kill yourself or leave. You know, you would have no choice. That was the best I could do. I did not know how to do it any other way. And it was like I came into the world of women with like a vaudeville act. I know this makes you uncomfortable, guys, but they're no better at it than we are. I can't talk about them, but I can only talk about me. But it's like I had 3 dances and 3 songs. You know, that was it. That was my whole routine. If you're not in touch with your feelings, you don't have a lot to give to any situation in life, much less a relationship. So, you know, I meet a girl at that initial encounter like 2 trains, you know, lust and energy, and you disappear for 3 weeks. Nobody hears from you, you know. Everybody's going nuts. Sponsors, where the hell are they? What happened, you know? She left the meeting with a guy with a beard, for Christ's sakes, you know. And you finally surface to no support. So you go now a couple of months of the relationship, and one day the girl looks over at me and goes, so I go, I do dance number 1. Dance number 1 might be a series of old stories about my past, most of which were lies, but dramatic and colorful. It might be taking them to see a walk in a park and a picnic where I've been with 37 other women. You know, new spontaneous experience here. I don't know what the hell it was, but that would be dance number 1. Well, this would go on for 6 times, you know. I'd use up my 3 dances and my 3 songs, and then they'd look over one more time, and I'd go, I got nothing there. There's nothing left. Well, when I started making money, I had 1 more left, credit card. You know, here, take this. This will fix it. Well, now I hate you because you've asked me for something I can't give you, and you've made me look at a weakness in me I don't want to look at. So this relationship is over. Now, I'm not going to say anything to you. We may even move into a new house. But I will make definitely sure it's a house you like a lot because I'm the only one that knows you are going to be living there alone. I just don't have the ability to tell you that yet because I'm afraid to speak up for me. And I think that if we argue, it's over anyway, so why bother? Right? The end is inevitable. Okay. How's all that changed today? I mean, I got to come forward to today. I give some examples of what has happened. A while back, Lois was feeling really lousy for a couple of months. She was very sick. And one day she walked up to me in the living room and says, I feel distance between us. Now, when cornered, I always give a really intelligent response. I said, how the hell can you feel distance? I'm standing 3 feet from you, for Christ's sake. Because what I'm hearing is somebody saying to me one more time, you ain't delivering. You're not giving to me. You're not delivering. You, one more time, aren't cutting it, you know. And she said, no, there's distance here. Something's wrong. There's distance between us. And I said, there's nothing wrong. How can there be anything wrong? Man, I'm going to the drugstore, I'm getting the medicine, I'm doing this, doing that, fixing the thing, cooking the thing, yada, yada, yada. Finally, she looked at me and she said, that's custodial care. You know? I can hire a nurse to do that. Okay, now it's like a little energy's going on inside the kid, you know. The mind is saying, okay, here you are, asshole, one more time, you're no good, you know. And another part of me is saying, let's get quiet, get away and get quiet. So I said to her, I'm going away, I'm going to the other room, I'll be back. 5 minutes later, I was back. 5 minutes later, I'm back. Standing before in the same living room, tears streaming down my face. Okay? And I said to her, you're right. There's distance between us. And there's a very good reason there's distance between us. Because the last time I was in a situation with somebody I really cared about, and they got sick, this is when I was 10 years sober, they died. They died. And this little guy inside of me who remembers sitting in the apartment alone, he remembers being curled up for 3 days with his knees tucked into his chest, he remembers crying until he hurt so bad inside he felt like he'd been kicked to death in a street fight. And that little guy is saying, she's sick, she may die, I'm not coming out. And I said, he's put his hat on, and he's running shoes, and he's gone for a little walk. So what you're getting is the best I can put out in these circumstances. You're going to have to look elsewhere. You may have to get it from the therapist, you may have to get it from the minister, you may have to get it from your friends. But I don't have it to give right now. Wow, what a relief. I mean, there's 2 people here now suddenly. You know, I don't have to tell her that she ain't sick. You know, my normal routine when you came to me with feelings I didn't understand was to convince you didn't have them. You know, now we have a real gaslight situation going on. No, you're not really angry at me. You miss your children. So I don't have to diminish her feelings, and I don't have to go away and hang myself just because experiences in my life have created a person who in this specific situation is who I am. Okay? That's who I am. That's what I'm about. That's one benefit. The other benefit was learning that inside of me was a little boy. And he had a lousy deal. You know, in AA, it's an interesting thing that goes on. we throw cliches around here like frisbees, paying no attention to who's the condition of the person catching it. You know, it's just as if you say something, it doesn't matter. I can remember early on in my sobriety walking through a meeting, mumbling something about my dad being a drunk and no goddamn good. Some guy said to me, hey, enough of that. Your parents did the very best job they could do. Forgive them. With the tools they had. That is, the best job they could do with the tools they had. That's very logical. My mind had no argument with that. My mind said he's right. He's absolutely correct. They had so much information, they couldn't do any more with that information. That's it. So I say, okay, great. I forgive them. Then Christmas came, and it's time to go be with the family. And I'm walking up the steps to the house, and I'm carrying presents that I can't afford, because I'm going to get some affection back out of this goddamn household somehow. And I walk in with his family, and I sit down, and nothing has changed. Nothing's changed. This Christmas might as well have been a Christmas 10 years ago. The same uncles are in the same chairs, telling the same jokes, drunk on the same booze. The same neurotics are hiding in the same corners they always hide in. The same people are nagging the same people about the same things they've always nagged them about. And I'm sitting there smiling, trying to be cool on Christmas #1 in sobriety, right? And I find suddenly I can't talk. My throat closes, like, ugh. And then I'm getting acid indigestion. Okay? And my stomach is sick, and I don't know what to do because I'm here with my family, and I've forgiven them, and they're okay, and what the hell's the matter with me? And then finally this voice from inside of me says, there's a simple solution to this whole goddamn situation. If you had a flamethrower, you could torch the house with everybody in it and give it up. Well, you know what's interesting about all this is the guy who said to me at the meeting,
Your parents did the best job they could with the tools they had. Was right. Was right. And forgive them. He was also right about that. That's really true. But what nobody bothered to tell me is that's only half of the issue. That's just half. The other half is they did an incredibly rotten job. Doesn't matter if it was the best, it was bad. And as long as I spent my life walking through sobriety thinking it was okay, then I was wrong. Something was wrong with me. And I couldn't have a meaningful relationship, couldn't hold a job, spent every nickel I ever got, didn't have any self-esteem, and I was getting the accolades in AA, and I was doing the circuit speaking, and I was at the convention, and all the rest of that was going on, and I still felt basically like your average turd laying in the street. All right? That's a horrible description, but that was what I felt like. And I didn't know where the hell to go with it, because I didn't know I was okay. See, because I wasn't in touch with some of that pain back there. I didn't remember being 2 years old with problem feet, with high arches, needing special shoes, standing in the hallway, with tears streaming down my face, telling my mother that these shoes were too small, that they hurt my feet, and having her shush me. Shh. Your father may hear, and those shoes are very expensive. He may get angry. Guys, I don't want to tell you, that does not do a world of good for a little human being's self-esteem when they find out that the price of shoes is more important than they are. Okay? And as a result of that, today I have a right foot that's practically a club foot that turns over. Now I have to do a lot of special things with my feet in order to deal with them, to exercise and to run and to do things like that. Well, sure, that was probably done to them too. But it doesn't mean that I have to ignore the fact that it was done to me. So the tragedy I see is that, oh God, I wasn't really going to do any of this. We have a lot of people sitting in a lot of meetings who have been beaten, battered, abused, molested, destroyed. And we walk around here, and that to me is the elephant. That's the elephant. And it's walking around, and nobody's paying any attention to it. It's like it doesn't exist, you know? Whoa, come on, give me a break. You got to tell me it doesn't matter? I mean, I have a friend who used to be tied up weekly. Weekly. It was like a game to see which parent could beat him the hardest. Well, he's supposed to then suddenly walk in AA, get sober, and know how to live, know how to be spontaneous, know how to stand and look at himself in the mirror and feel like he's a human being. You know, no wonder we goddamn keep killing ourselves when we get sober. Because we're not stupid people, guys, and yet all the facts are in. All the information is in, and we walk around ignoring the information. Cigarette smoking will kill you. The facts are in. Information is there. I'll tell you, when I quit, I was researching a story on suicide. And I was at suicide prevention in Los Angeles, in the boardroom with the heads of suicide prevention. And I whip out my Marlboros and, light one up and look, and there's not an ashtray in the whole boardroom. Now, you all right, smokers? You know you're in trouble already. You're in trouble, right? Someone says, oh, no, we'll get you an ashtray. It's okay. Well, just a minute. Out in the next office they go, and, of course, they bang every drawer and slam cabinets and, make a big goddamn deal, and they come back with an ashtray like a fishbowl, serving platter. Put it down in front of you, make it really comfortable, I take a drag on my cigarette, and the head of suicide prevention looks at me and says, we have an official opinion on cigarette smoking. I say, well, what is it? Yeah, right, big mistake. Asking that question, big mistake. Not really. It was one of the smartest things I ever did in my life. He looked at me, he smiled, he said, now that it is a fact, now that the evidence is in, now that it is proven that cigarette smoking will kill you, we view cigarette smoking as covert suicide. It is a little tiny gun with a little tiny bullet. Well, that was a few months before I quit. But I want to tell you, every time you light a goddamn cigarette, you hear a 38 go off. It's like, it begins to put a lot of pressure on your program. It's one of the best things I ever did, because in case you haven't noticed, cigarette smoking also covers up feelings. It's another mask. It's something else that gets in the way, And it's like, that can be, if people say, well, why do you talk about this stuff at AA? I mean, I've had people scream at me, well, we're going to talk about smoking, goddamn, go to Smokers Anonymous. I don't know, somebody said, you know, what it used to be like, what happened, what's like now. This is what it used to be like, what happened, what's like now for me. And it's interesting that everything that's important to me in my life today, was not important to me when I arrived at Alcoholics Anonymous. None of it. And yet it's all important today. And I find that if I could just give up one thing, and I gave up one thing, and I found that it's like a little snowball, the path began to get better. When my wife died from cancer, I found it was easy to give up red meat. Bang, gone. Because, I'm not going to go into all the reasons why, but it was an easy connection from all the people that we dealt with when she was sick. That was gone. Then went coffee, okay? Then came cigarettes. I had a woman come up to me after a talk in which a lot of people were really angry and were yelling because I talked a lot about cigarette smoking. They were yelling back, you know, from the audience. And about cigarette smoking, oh, hey, you know, it's nice to be loved. And, by the way, everything I say is my own opinion anyway, and I might change it on the way home on the plane, so it'd be really sad if you got nuts over it, you know. And we also don't have to hold the same opinion to love each other. See? We don't have to have the same opinion to love each other. I didn't know that. I never knew that. I thought we had to agree. If we didn't agree, it's goodbye. You know, let's not talk to each other anymore. But I talked about smoking, about coffee, and I had this woman come up to me after the meeting, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I wish I could have gotten a note to you. She said, I'm 9 years sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. She said, I came from my doctors today. She said, I have fibrostic tumors in both breasts that are cancerous, and possible fibrostic tumors in other parts of my body that are cancerous, and all of them are attributed directly to excessive coffee drinking, excessive caffeine. It's just a woman in the program, 9 years sober, drank a little bit of coffee. And you know what, guys, and I don't mean it, you know, I don't really want to make you uncomfortable, but it's like we sit here and all this information is in. It's like nutrition and mental health go hand in hand. I have read 2 studies, you'll love this one, right? This one will make you really want to run, you know, the program chairman out of town, all right? 2 recent studies done on why the sober alcoholic after a few years of sobriety returns to drinking. All right, because, you know, I don't know, it's like, in my opinion, from watching this outfit for 23 years, no bigger percentage of people stay sober over 5 years today than stayed sober over 5 years, 15 years ago. Okay? And if that's a reality, I don't know if it is or not, but I go to conventions, I watch the people stand up, I watch the sobriety counts, I talk to the people. I mean, we're getting more people in, so more people are staying sober, but percentage-wise, no more staying sober over 5 years. These last 2 studies that came out said the number 1 reason for the alcoholic returning to drinking after a period of sobriety is bad nutrition. Now, I'm just quoting what I read, guys, so, you know, if you're thinking about hanging me in a cross in the parking lot, forget it, you know what I'm saying? But think about it for a minute. If lousy food or sugar and crap and processed foods and things could put you in a depressed state, their argument is this: if you eat bad, you are depressed. And if you're depressed, you will only, if you are a sober member of the program, you will only stay depressed for so long, and then you will seek a remedy you know that works. Now, I don't know, you know, so it's like, God, why aren't we grasping all this stuff with open arms? I've met some of you guys that have blown me away in Southern California, and maybe getting them here too. I met a couple of guys that absolutely floored me. They had been all over the goddamn world. They ate rigid vegetarian diets. They didn't drink coffee. They didn't smoke cigarettes. They didn't eat sugar. They had been to India to sit by the rivers and talk to the gurus. They had been in the Himalayas and talked with the High Lamas. They had walked barefoot in the snow with Edgar Casey's people in Virginia Beach. They had been all over this globe seeking the answers, and the only thing that was interfering with their spiritual growth was their heroin. Okay? But they come in here and they sit down, and we give them a book, and we give them 12 steps, and we give them a fellowship, which these guys have grabbed onto by, like you would embrace the woman you love more than anything else in the world. They say, wow, this is terrific. And about 30 days, 90 days into this program, they look around and say to people, why are you doing that? You're sober 10 years. What the hell are you doing smoking a cigarette, for Christ's sakes? You know what answer they got? I heard a guy get an answer. I heard a guy get an answer out of a guy 26 years sober when he was asked by one of these flippant young seekers why he was smoking. When you're sober as long as I am, you'll understand. Come on. I don't want to ever understand that one. The bonuses of this 23 years in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is I have a lot of friends, and then by adding outside tools, at 50 years old, I'm in probably the top 1% in the country for health, all right, of guys that are 50. And this ain't the end of the road. This is why golden opportunity means so much to me. I want to be in better shape at 51. You know, I mean, like I haven't hit it yet. I want to be in better shape at 52, and better shape still at 53, and there's absolutely no reason in the world why I can't do this. Because I'm thoroughly convinced that the longer we continue to stay sober, the quality of my life must continue to improve. If the quality of my life doesn't continue to improve, eventually I'm going to go away, guys. I've got to go away. Now, my life has improved to the point today, I take good care of myself today. I like this guy today. I get up and look in the mirror in the morning, and there's a person there who sometimes I stroke his cheek because I see the little boy living inside of me looking back at me, and I stroke his cheek and I say, you're a very good little boy, and I love you very, very much. And I know you got a lousy deal, but it's okay because I take care of you now. And I love bears. You know, I discovered my little boy loves bears. Most people know I love bears. I got a beautiful bear tonight from a friend from Illinois. He's wonderful. We named him Archie because you have arches here in St. Louis. So that's Archie. I have bears on my tie. It's filled with teddy bears, you know. I'm a big kid, man. I got bears in the room who travel with me. 40 bears at home that all watch the Olympics on TV. Had flags from the different countries they're from to cheer for the different athletes. I have the adolescent. I'm doing better with the adolescent. He and I get along. I mean, we have problems still. He still gets, you know, a little crazy every now and then, but nothing like he used to. I remember once he came to me and he said, I was getting ready to get rid of a car, a four-door sedan. He said to me, I'd like a Corvette. I said to my adolescent, you can't have a Corvette. He says, come on, man, I want a Corvette. I said, I'd look silly in a Corvette. He says, you'd look great in a Corvette. They're low and sleek, and whoa, he said, they're really good. He says, I've got to have a Corvette. And I thought for a minute, I said, oh, what the hell, you know? I mean, this adolescent never had a car. He didn't steal in his life anyway, right, you know? So I said, all right, I'll get you the Corvette. So I got him the Corvette. Well, he had a small problem with the Corvette. He had two positions for the accelerator, all the way off or all the way on. I mean, his whole personality changed to get the Corvette. It's just like, you know, he'd become an immediate lowrider at 45 years of age, you know, down the street. Highway Patrol in California loves Corvettes. They can spot them 7 miles away. And I had another problem, too, is my child, my little boy who lives inside of me, he's like a dog in the car. You know how kids are like dogs in cars, man. It's like, you know, so when I got the Corvette, my little boy, he was wild because it had T-roofs, and he was like, you know, he wanted to look at everything and see everything. But when the T-roofs were off, the wind blew the adolescent's hair. See? And he's got to look good when he gets there, so he wouldn't take the T-roofs off because, you know, he has to look good or cross or die, right? So I had to find a compromise. I had to buy a spray bottle of water and a hairbrush so I could take the T-roofs off for the child and fix the adolescent's hair when I got him there, you know. Anyway, eventually he got so many traffic tickets, they sent me a letter saying, one more, we're going to remove your driver's license for the rest of your life. So I got rid of the Corvette. But I had been a loving parent. He said, I want a Corvette. And I said, okay, I love you, here it is. And he fucked up and I took it away. It's simple. You know, it worked out. So I had the adolescent, I had the child, and I've met an adult. I've met a beautiful adult male that lives inside of me who now is a few months away from 50 years of age. And he's a guy that I would like if I met him someplace else. And yet I used to live so alone. I was so out of touch with my feelings that when I lived in an apartment alone, you would not know there was human life there unless you heard a door open and close, the toilet flush, or the refrigerator open and close. Because there was no feelings. And I've discovered for me, when there's no feelings, nobody's home. Because I believe that I am my feelings. That's who I am. The very thing I am is what I've been running from all my life. If I'm not my feelings, what the hell am I? I'm certainly not my personality. I could change that from one room to the other, you know. So it can't be that. I can't be the clothes I wear. They'd be taken away. Like not what I do for a living, because that can change tomorrow. I can't be the car I drive, the house I live in, the money in my bank account. If I'm not any of those things, what am I? I'm what I feel. And what I feel isn't always appropriate. You know, my feelings have been damaged. It's true. I mean, it's like I go out of the house in the morning, and my neighbor goes out of the house in the morning, and my car doesn't start, and his car doesn't start. We go back in the house. He calls the auto club. I call suicide prevention, you know. My whole life has just failed. Just his car hasn't started. We have a different perspective on this situation. I guess what I'm trying to say is that inside of you is the most important person in this room. Inside of you is the most important person in this room. There's a child in there that needs love so desperately. And it's hard to be a child. I'll share one more story because it's important to me. Favorite person, we want to dance. Well, anyway. I'm a Raiders fan because I live in Los Angeles, and I was a fan before they came to Los Angeles. And usually I go to football games with friends, and one Sunday there was no friend to go. And I went and bought one ticket, and I'm going to the game, and I let my kid dress up for the game. I mean, he wears a gray long-sleeve shirt and a black Raiders T-shirt over it and a Raiders hat, carries a goddamn black and silver pom-pom, and humiliating as hell to the adolescent. The adolescent can't stand it. He'd like to hide. And, yeah, fucking pom-pom, Jesus Christ. You know. You're a Raiders fan, not some wimp. Leave the goddamn pom-pom home, you know. So as I'm starting to walk into the gates of the Coliseum, I'm overwhelmed by sadness. Just overwhelmed by sadness. And I'm like, oh. I say to my child, I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he says, I'm afraid because there's none of your friends here with you, and you're going to be sitting between strangers, you won't let me cheer. I went, oh, God, because that's my life, man, you know. Don't look foolish. Don't, be quiet. I was raised in a household of silence. Be quiet. Shh. Bobby, be quiet. When the game was over, and it was a typical Raiders game, which they won in the last 4 seconds, I had two couples sitting on the left of me dressed in tweed with leather elbow patches. And I don't remember who was on the right of me, but the lady on the left of me, when the game was over, looked at me and she said, I'm convinced the only reason they won the game is because of your cheering. Because I was able to honor my child. And all I'm trying to say to you, sure, I know a lot of the things I say, God, make you mad, upset you. I mean, I'm striking at what you eat. I'm striking at the coffee you drink, the cigarettes you smoke, the stuff you use to defend. But all I'm trying to do is share with you what's happened to me over 23 years. And you know what? I don't do any of those things, and my life is better. And there's a lot of motivation for this. There's other motivation. I don't know about you, but I absolutely am firmly convinced I'm a big believer in the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay? Right? I send back my publisher's clearinghouse letters. I wait for Ed McMahon to tell me that things have improved. I send back my Reader's Digest. I mean, I believe it's out there. About a year ago, I'd come from my business manager's office, and I'd gotten put in touch with reality, which wasn't pleasant. I had no money, none, and owed a lot. I'm driving down the street in my car, and I look at my rearview mirror, and there's this limousine behind me, old Cadillac limousine, little old chauffeur behind the wheel, and an even older little old lady in the back of it. And I know that in a block he's going to flash his lights, honk his horn, have me pull over. She's going to get out of the back of the limo, hand me $1 million, right? I'm going to fall out on my knees in the gutter and cry and show her that she got the right guy, who really needs it. And I turned left and they went straight, right? Well, now, Lois is a Canadian, and in Canada, their lotteries are different than our lotteries here, okay? 2 ways. Number one, tax-free. You pay no taxes on the money you get. Number two, you get it in one lump sum. It's not paid off over a long period of time, okay? About a year and a half ago in Canada, a guy and his wife hit a $14 million lottery. Now, I don't know about you, but that would definitely take care of a couple of collection agencies that aren't thrilled with me right now, And I could convince American Express I'm really a good guy and not a bandit. $14 million, that's it. Got his pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, was put into his life. He hadn't taken good care of himself throughout his life. He was not in good health. 6 weeks after he got the money, he died. Okay? I got to tell you something. My pot of gold may not be coming until I'm 70, which means I've still got another 20 years to go, right? But I goddamn want more than 6 weeks left when I get there. And if you're like I am, the number one excuse you're going to use for not doing any of these things that I have shared with you is that it is too late. You may be 22 and you're going to say, oh, well, what the hell, right? If you're in your 30s, I know, right? 30 might as well be 80. What the who cares? What could I, you know. A couple of 3 years ago, I was watching a sporting event on television at home, and they were interviewing this guy before the sporting event. Little old guy, and he was telling the interviewer that when he was 65 years of age, he lived at home with his son. And his son came into his room one morning, and his son said to him, Dad, we're going to have to put you into a home. And his father said, I don't want to go to a home. That's the one thing in the whole world I don't want to do. His son said to him, I have no choice. No choice. You are sitting here in this house doing nothing but dying. You do not do anything. You smoke cigarettes. You eat crap. You are sitting here dying. It's not good for me. It's not good for my wife. And it's particularly not good for your grandchildren. We have to put you into a home. And the old man said to him, I will do anything, anything to not go, anything to not go. His son said, get up in the morning and come run with me. And he said, fine, I will. They got up the next morning and they went to run, and his father was able to run 1/4 of a block. And his legs almost gave out underneath him. They were trembling. He couldn't breathe, and he thought he was going to have a heart attack. His heart was pounding so bad. And his son said, go home and we'll talk, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it. The old man went out every morning for the next 3 months, every morning, and just kept going, one step at a time. And at the end of 3 months, he got a whole mile. And what transpired at this mile is really interesting, because what he accepted at this point is almost what we have to accept if we want to change if I want to change my life, I have to accept certain things. And when he hit that mile, a light bulb went on inside of him, and he said, if I am in this bad a shape at this age, he said, then my whole life must have been wrong. It must have been wrong. And he gave up eating the junk food, and he gave up the cigarettes, and he started to read books on positive thinking and books on prayer and meditation. When I was watching him be interviewed, he was 83 years old. He was in New York City to run his 14th New York Marathon. He was in better health, by his own admission, than he was when he was 40 years of age. And he was 83. All I'm trying to say is there is a golden opportunity here for us, a really beautiful, incredible opportunity. And apparently, if this man's experience is any example, it's not too late. God bless you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.